Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be going over my March wrap up, and we read a lot of things. We read a lot of things, but it wasn't a lot of great things. It was definitely a quantity over quality month, which was kind of unfortunate. I didn't have like a bunch of stuff I didn't like, but I had a lot of threes. I had a lot of threes, a lot of 3.5s, with definitely not a lot in like the higher end of things. And my 4 stars are even kind of weak. Like I was going through this massive pile of 19 books and I'm just like, about a lot of these, unfortunately. And there's a lot of them that I like don't even remember that much stuff about because they're just not sticking in my brain, unfortunately. So we're gonna very quickly go through these. I actually only had 2 DNFs, so let's talk about those first. And I think I DNF'd this in March. I didn't have this written down anywhere. I don't think I went over it last month, but if I did, just ignore this. But DNF'd Good Intentions. I think this was like the very first thing I tried to read, and it was for my Instagram series of reading my arcs, but I didn't like this. Okay, the bad thing is I loved a lot of this, but then there was a very kind of traumatic pet death in this, and it also became a situation of I am only reading this at this point because it is difficult to look away, and not my favorite thing to do in a book. It just, this is a complicated one. Because really the main reason I DNF'd was because of the pet death, and I didn't want to put myself through that because my dog is 16 years old, and it was talking about an elderly dog going missing and never being found. And I can't deal with that right now because my dog is older. He is very healthy for his age, but we're getting to that time period. So I can't do books that especially have elderly pet deaths. That unfortunately was a DNF, but I would recommend it for people who don't have that much of a problem with it. Next up, I DNF'd I'll Find You Where the Timeline Ends. This was in my video for reading them on Book Box Books, and this was one that I bought separately, so I didn't feel as bad DNFing this one, but I hated this. I hated this. The time travel didn't make sense. I don't have any good things to say about this, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. If you want to see more of a review on it, go check out that video. And yeah, that's it. That's the 2 DNFs. I feel like that's kind of crazy that I only had 2 DNFs. I definitely have been DNFing less stuff lately, but I think I've also been a little more picky about things that I'm buying in general and what I'm reading. So I am enjoying that. So anyway, okay, this is actually really funny. I started filming this and you saw my DNFs and stuff, but I realized I added 2 books in here that I actually read last month, but I just couldn't talk about them last month because they're in the video that I had. So that's really funny. I actually don't have a 1 star this month. I thought my 1 star was 7 Deadly Thorns, but I actually read that last month. It was just, again, one that I couldn't talk about. So very quickly, 2 books in this pile that I couldn't talk about last month, but I read last month because they were for the November-December reading vlog. I read 7 Deadly Thorns, which I already told you guys I read. It was a 1 star. And then A Rather Vengeful Accord I couldn't talk about last month either, but it was a 4.5. So those are the 2 books I accidentally almost included in this, and you will see in the thumbnail, but they're actually not books that I read this month. So that's really funny. I just had them up here, so I just like included them in and everything. That's awkward. So anyway, let's start with our lowest book of the month, and that is The House Sapphire, and this was also for the November-December reading on my Book Box Books. Just wasn't very good. This could have been fantastic, but I think it did a lot of things that didn't work. So basically what ends up happening in this one is this is a gothic-y mystery that has some fantastical elements in it, but the fantastical elements aren't very good. And well, okay, some of the fantastical elements are not very good. The actual paranormal ghost aspects are fantastic. That's so good. The whole book should have just focused on the ghosts and hunting the ghosts. Instead, we had these like monsters that kept showing up in this book. And to be honest, it felt like 2 separate books smashed together. So I think the monster hunting aspect of this should have been removed, which is crazy because I love monster hunting, but the monsters didn't make any sense or need to be in this book whatsoever. Should have focused on the family because we are looking at Bluebeard and a family curse situation and ghosts possessing people. Should have focused on that. Should have completely written out the monsters, and I think this could have been closer to a 4 star, but it just didn't make a lot of sense. Like, the plot just really didn't work for me. I think this book didn't know what it wanted to be. Next up, our other 2.5. it's a mix between a 3 and a 2.5. It is A Box Full of Darkness, the new Simone St. James. Yeah, unfortunately I didn't like it that much. I was really hoping we'd finally get back around because you guys know I haven't enjoyed the last couple Simone St. James, but before that I really loved Simone St. James. Would classify her as she was one of my favorite thriller mystery writers, and now I really don't like her books, and this was no exception. I just feel like not a lot happened in this book. I did kind of like the end, but generally not. I feel like this was more of like a generational trauma story or a sibling trauma story, but it's following a bunch of siblings who end up having to come back to this house because their ghostly brother has been seen, and they're trying to deal with, I don't know why now, but suddenly now we are trying to deal with the point is that their brother disappeared when they were younger and no one knows what happened to him, and it like tore their family apart. And so they're all now coming back to this house to deal and figure out what actually happened to the younger brother. And that's like the whole story, but it's a very unsatisfying ending in my opinion. It's a very Simone St. James type of thing to do, but not in a way that I used to like her books. It's in her like new way of doing stuff that I just find kind of boring and a little bit weird of an ending. So it wasn't my vibe. I didn't dislike it as much as some of her other ones that I've read recently, but I still didn't love this one. Moving on to our 3 stars. First, we have Shady Hollow. I was really disappointed in this one. I actually read this for my mystery boxes, choose what I'm reading. Yeah, I was just kind of disappointed. I thought it was going to be a much cuter, cozier fiction book, and unfortunately it was kind of boring. It was kind of boring. I didn't really end up caring about the characters. I didn't really care about the mystery that much. I am gonna try the second book, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. But yeah, it's just supposed to be a cute, cozy mystery that's in this like little town. I need to solve the death of somebody, but that's pretty much it. Didn't really have much else for that one. Next up, I read The Secret Lives of Murderers' Wives, and I am telling you the rating of this one. This is actually going to be in a video that is coming out in April. I have a goal in 2026. I tried to do it in 2025 and it didn't work out, but I am actively trying to do this goal. I have a rack on my desk where my like main computer is, and that's where I put my brand new books that aren't scheduled for videos. So like my book box books go on something completely different. I know they're going to be in videos. They don't go on that shelf. Any books that I get that are not for videos go on that shelf. And the point was to not get to a point where it's overflowing, where I start putting books other places. The point is to have them all there, and they no longer fit. I've bought too many books. They don't fit on there. So now it is time to read them, and this ended up being one of the picks. So The Secret Lives of Murderers' Wives, 3 stars. It's fine. I'm not going to get too much into it. I talked about it in that video, so I kind of want to leave it there. Not as fun as I was hoping. Like, I feel like this promised like a really interesting, fun time, and I just didn't like the 3 perspectives. I think it could have done really well as a single perspective book. It felt very confusing with 3 perspectives because they all felt the same. Every single character read the same, and that led to a very confusing reading experience. Ooh, next up, this was for my hyped video. This is Daggermouth. This is 3 stars. I feel like I don't want to talk about this one anymore because I'm really sad, but I talked about it pretty at length in that video. I just did not get the hype with this one. I really didn't. I think it's fine for what it is. I don't think it does anything necessarily. It doesn't do anything wrong, but it doesn't do anything that's really saying anything. This book doesn't really say anything other than a very generic dystopian announcement. Like, it is big government bad, rebellion good. Like, that is all this is. I do think the romance took away from what the dystopian was trying to do. I just don't think this was very well developed for a dystopian. I know I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this probably, although I actually had a lot of people in the comment section on this video that also did not like this book and were surprised. It basically just didn't develop the world. It didn't develop the world, which is something that is kind of egregious in dystopian books because the worlds are so important. When you're talking about dystopian, you have to understand the evil government and what they've done. And instead of actually developing that, it kind of just said, insert generic government here, insert very over-the-top ridiculous villain here. And they could have been switched out with any government, any villain. It was so blanket, not explained, and very generic that it made me not care much about the book. Yeah, obviously this is evil and this is good, but if that's all that you're having in here. I just think it needed a lot more building up, and I'm hoping that later books actually do that and add some depth to the world. So then we have Fallen City. Again, this is like my most recent read pretty much. This was for, again, my November and December book box books. That's why I'm not going to talk about it too much, but this one, basically, I didn't like the structure of this one, and I thought it was really, really boring because nothing happened in it. So when I talk about it in the video, I talk about how I would restructure it. I'm not going to go over it again, but I would have liked this one to be one singular timeline instead of split the way it was, because instead of getting a completed story, we got fragments of a story. And so we got fragments of understanding what the before was like, but it was too short because half of the book was taken up by the current day stuff. So I think we just needed a story that was told from the before and have that as the plotline of this book, and then go into the second book more focused on the current day and the Fallen City. So I think this just needed a lot more time in the past to build up relationships and build up your feeling about the people in the city, instead of just focusing a lot on the present day, which literally nothing happened in. Next, we have our 3.5s, and the first one is Her Last Breath. I wanted to love this one, but I think I went into this one with the wrong expectations. This one was in my mystery boxes pick what I read, and I really wish I'd gone into this as knowing it was more of a mystery and less of a thriller, which I know is crazy. I feel like a lot of people are talking about this book and they're like, oh my god, it's so thrilling. I did not find this thrilling at all. I thought it was a really good mystery though. I think that's why I'm so disappointed, is I think if I had the correct expectations for this book and I wasn't thinking of it like No Exit. No Exit, I was thinking this was going to be like so intense. I was going to be screaming, freaking out like No Exit. Instead, you got a slow, methodical mystery where everybody is an unreliable narrator. And I love that normally, but that's not what I was expecting when I read this. And I think that's where most of my expectations went down the drain, is just because I was expecting something completely different. So this is following our main character who is retelling her story to a like police officer. But so half the story is like her kind of telling the story and showing what she's telling you. That's why it's really interesting, because I kind of was telling people, because it's kind of hard to describe. I was telling people it's similar to Princess Bride, the movie at least. I don't know about the book, but in the movie, you have the little boy and the grandpa, and the grandpa is telling the little boy a story, and then he'll interject and you'll come back to current day. But most of the movie is following what the grandpa's telling you. So that's kind of what this is our main girl is telling the cop her story, and you're seeing the story as told by her. So you don't know what's reliable, what's unreliable, if this is the real story, etc. And I wish I had known that is what this book was, and I think I would have loved it. Next up, another 3.5. It's not that good. It's not good, but it was wildly entertaining, and then it did go up in my estimation because the second book was, I would actually say the second book was pretty good. So this is following our main character who is basically stolen by a bunch of werewolves, and that's the whole story. It's like humans versus werewolves and the ramifications of the fighting between clans, and that's pretty much it. I honestly don't really know that much the point of these books, but they are kind of fun to read. So if you want just a very fast-paced, easy romantasy, and the audiobook is actually really good, I would pick up The Wolf King, and I do have The Night Prince later because it is rated higher. And I read that one in Hyped Books. 3.5, still, Cold Wire. This one actually is as high as it is because the ending was really good. Read this in my November and December book box video, and this was a mixture of really disappointing and actually the ending was really, really good. That's why this one's complicated, because I didn't like 80% of the book, and then the ending was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get why this book was the way it was, and it was actually very well done. And that's what's crazy about this, because it has one of my favorite twists, but it's so rare for this twist to be done well. But Chloe Gong did the twist really, really well. So this is taking place in real current dystopian world has been destroyed, taking place in that. And it's also taking place in virtual reality. So one perspective is from one character, mostly in virtual reality, and then the other is from the person actually dealing with the destroyed world. And they're both working towards some sort of goal. And that's kind of all I can say, because it is very intense. If you want to read this one, you've really got to pay attention to this one because there's a lot going on. Moving on to the 4 stars. I originally gave this 4.5, but I did downgrade it to a 4 because I'm already not remembering a lot about this one, but I did really enjoy this. I enjoyed this. I read this with my mother. My mom and I always read the new Frida McFadden. We finally got around to The Intruder, and we both really liked it. We both really liked it. It's really fun. This is following our main character who is living out in this like remote area, and there is a person that appears and she ends up having to help them, and they're kind of stuck together during a storm. And obviously in normal Frida McFadden fashion, there's crazy twists. You have a current day timeline and a past timeline, and they obviously converge. That is The Intruder. Actually really enjoyed this one. Would also recommend this one. I'm honestly, I'm having a great time with Frida McFadden's. I know that is a crazy thing to say. A lot of people don't like her books, but I'm really enjoying them. Next up, 4 stars. Our first 4-star is The Night Prince. Again, I would recommend the audiobook. This is the second book after The Wolf King. I can't really say too much about this one, but it's following basically the same premise as The Wolf King, but the characters are significantly better developed. I like the relationships better in this one. I think our female girly is finally coming into her own, which is really nice. And I just think this is a better overall story, and I'm incredibly excited for the next one. And I do actually plan to reread this one because I think it could be higher than a 4 upon reread. Next up, in a book I'm kind of really bitter about. I'm really bitter about this one because this is the second book in the Buried in the Bound series, The Summer Queen. I gave it a 4-star. I actually was bored for most of this book, but I loved the beginning and I loved the end, and I really liked the end. So I did end up giving it a 4. It's like a 3.5 to a 4. So it probably is below some of these other ones, but this is where we're at. But this is the Alcrate edition. Alcrate is not doing the third book, and I'm actually really upset about it. I really wish they'd at least put an announcement out, something, so that I would have known, but we kind of all had to figure it out on our own. Like the comment section in my last video, or whenever I talked about this last, is not happy. I think it was April. Yeah, April new releases. I talk about the third book, and people are not happy about it. They're really not happy about it. So I wish they'd at least just said something, but I think it's really, I get why they did it. I bet this one didn't sell very well, so they didn't want to continue in the series, but they could have at least made a small amount for people who did buy this one, because it's really shitty to get through 2 books, and then the final book, it's not even like there's gonna be 4 or 5 books, it's 3 books, that's it. So it's really shitty just to not make at least a couple for your very loyal fan base that wants these. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that these are just different covers, and these are like, there's no sprayed edges or anything. So I think they've just totally moved to this different way of doing things where they're just not doing these anymore, which is kind of upsetting. They did Mate, but Bride sold really well, and Mate sold really well, so that's not that surprising. But I think they're just phasing this out completely, which I'm very upset about. I would have at least liked some sort of announcement. But anyway, follow up in the series. I can't really talk about it because it is the second book. 4-star though, I enjoyed it. Next up, we have the Revenant games. And what did I read this for? Oh, this was for Realmathon. I think Summer Queen was also for a Realmathon. I did a Realmathon 48 hours? No, I didn't do this for Realmathon. What did I do the Summer Queen for? I don't remember. Did I read it in this video? Did I read the Summer Queen in this month? Now I'm like questioning myself. Yes, no, I did. I don't know why I read it, but it was not for that. I think I read it right before the 48-hour reading vlog, I think. I don't remember what I read the Summer Queen for, but I did read the Revenant games for the 48-hour readathon, and I actually ended up really enjoying this one. I've had this one for a little while, so I was really happy that I enjoyed it as much as I did. I don't think it's necessarily the most amazing thing, but I actually had so much fun reading this one, and I already bought the second book in the duology, so I plan to pick up the next one. But this one is following it's kind of weird. It's following our main character who has to, I can't say a lot about this because some of this, there's like some early spoilers, but she has to basically compete in this game, and it's a game that's vampires versus witches, and she's gonna have to choose sides and decide what prize that she wants, and she works with some friends, and there's obviously a romance along the way. So if you like vampires, you like witches, I think you should at least try this one. Next up, also read for the 40-hour readathon, is Two Can Play. Oh no, I forgot one. I forgot. Okay, back to 3 stars. I totally forgot because I had 2 non-physical reads. Half His Age. I give Half His Age 3 stars. We read it for a hyped video. Don't have much more to say on that one other than what I said in that video already, so we're not going to go over too much. But 3-star, Half His Age. I will read another Jeanette McCurdy. I think it did what it was trying to do. It was very controversial, but I think that's why it ended up working for the most part. There are things I would have changed in that, but overall it worked for what it was trying to do. Okay, sorry, back to 4 stars. Two Can Play. I really liked this. A lot of people didn't like this, and I get why, but going into it knowing it's a novella, knowing like what to expect out of a very short but gonna be steamy book, I expected the romance to start really early, but I loved how it opened up. I would love this to be a full-length book because of video game things, so I'm really hoping Allie Hazelwood writes a enemies to lovers video game book for a full-length novel because this was so fun. But yeah, it's following our main character who is a video game developer. She ends up having to work with her rival and they're stuck at this cabin over the weekend. That's it. Next up, 4 stars still, we have Violet Thistlewaite is not the villain, and this was just cute. I also read this for November, December reading vlog, and I don't have a lot to say other than this was just a really nice, cozy fantasy. It is up there. It does not beat out the Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping or the other book that she wrote, but this is underneath it. Like, this is very close to the top. I very much enjoyed this. It is barely beating The Spell Shop, but I loved the characters. I liked the town that we were in, and I liked that she originally worked for a villain. I loved the backstory of the characters, so very much enjoyed this. Would highly recommend. So I am jumping in really fast because I did just read The Red Winter and I completely forgot about it. This is a 4-star. I very much enjoyed this one. I finished it on like the last day of March, and I have it for the video with The Secret Lives of Murderers' Wives. It's coming out with that one. That's why I was in like a separate pile and I just forgot to pick it up. But anyway, read The Red Winter, love it. It's following our main character Sebastian in like the 1700s. Don't remember the exact date, but it's telling his story of a very small part of his life because he is basically an immortal who's lived for thousands of years, and he kind of travels the world getting involved in different things that are happening in history. So I'm really hoping there's another book in the series because I loved this. I will say check the trigger warnings with this one because there's a lot. There's a lot. It is very gory. It is taking place during a hunt, so there are a lot of animal deaths, including a pretty traumatic horse death, which I wasn't expecting. If you've read Emperor the Vampire, it is very similar to the horse death in that as well. But I would try this one, just be aware. There's also some dog deaths, hunting dogs, so be aware of what is in this book before going in it. But otherwise, it actually is a fantastic book. The writing's amazing, the storytelling is amazing. You just really have to pay attention while reading this one because a lot is going on. Now we are to our 2 5-stars of the month because we did end up having 2 5-stars. And the first one is Meet the Newmans. Shocking. It's a historical fiction novel, but this is a good for you. This is a good for you, girl, you go get 'em kind of story. Love that. I love when it's just like girl power and we're rewriting history and women have a voice and they're fighting against the patriarchy. I'm always gonna love that kind of story. And we also have representation of LGBTQ plus in this time period, which is like not a thing. So I'm loving seeing that as well. And they talk about the protests and rights for LGBTQ plus people, and especially on TV because that was not a thing. So this was just a lot of fun and also very devastating at times. So I would recommend this one even if you're not comfortable, but if you love a female empowerment story, I would try this one. And then my favorite book of the month, which was crazy. This was actually a recommendation from Alyssa because she knows I've been trying to find a middle grade book that I actually enjoy, and she found one. It is Nevermore. This is the first book in the Nevermore series, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. I think this is amazing. This is so good. This is perfect. Like, this is such a good book. I always complain about middle grade sometimes just being too young sometimes, and that's just like, that's not like an actual complaint against middle grade. It's just a little bit too young for me. Like, obviously that's not bad for like the age that it's written for. It makes sense. This one does read a little bit older, and not even just that, it's just the characters are making decisions that I really appreciate, and the book is also incredibly interesting, and I love the characters. I love what they're doing. I love the trials in this, and it's just a very beautifully built world. I was very impressed with everything that was built in here, and it's a chunky book. Like, it goes through a lot, and it's not like massive, like it's big font, but it's not huge font. Like this, it's a chunky, longer book, and I appreciate what it did, and so I'm really excited to continue in this series. And it's following our main character Morrigan Crow, who is known as a cursed child. She was born on an unlucky day or month. I don't know if it's day or month, but basically she is born to create problems. If she stares at something too long, it might break. If she wishes someone a good day, they might fall and break their leg, something like that. But obviously there's more to it. But she gets taken away to this magical world and has to go through a competition, and it's just so cute. I would actually recommend this to literally anybody who likes fantasy to read. So very happy with this one. But anyway, that is everything that I ended up reading in March. I do plan to read less in April. I think I overconsumed in March because there was like obviously Realmathon, and I just kept reading. I was just reading a lot. And I think I didn't let myself sit with a lot of books. So I would like to kind of tone it down a little bit and allow myself to sit with more books. But if you made it this far, let's leave a cat emoji because there is a very fun cat character in Nevermore that I really like. So leave a cat emoji if you want to let me know that you're here and you made it this far in the video. Then let me know what you guys read in March. I love seeing what you guys read in March. And like I said, if I don't respond right away, I do read all of them though. So I would love to see what you guys read. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe to miss future content. I got a lot of stuff coming out in April. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.